Hello, this is Samantha Nolan-Smith. I'm the CEO and founder of the School of Visibility, and I am here today to talk about why women struggle with support and what that has to do with being visible in the world, with speaking up, with being influential, with using your voice. And the first thing to know, the first really important thing to frame this consideration from the perspective of is to understand that you are a participant in a system, namely, I'm going to call it the hierarchy. And when I'm talking about the hierarchy, I'm talking about patriarchy, I'm talking about white supremacy, I'm talking about heteronormativity, I'm talking about ableism. All of these systems are set up such that you are placed in the position of supporter, not the person to be supported, not the person who can expect support. The systems are set up in such a way that, let's talk about ableism, that it's the system supports people who are ably bodied to get through the world. And if you have a physical disability, you will be all too aware of this, that the system, the environment is not set up to support you, which means that you come up against time after time after time of challenges just getting from A to B. So it is with patriarchy. The system is set up to support men to succeed, and the way that men have traditionally succeeded, let's say in business, in their careers, has been that women have occupied the place of support person. They have been at home taking care of all the domestic responsibilities, and the men have then been free to go out there and build their careers and earn the money and do all of that kind of stuff. And then when we got to a phase where women finally were fighting to get into the workforce, women suddenly found themselves in the position where they were both in that role, that male role of going to work, being expected to show up, take action, be really engaged in the workplace, etc., build their careers. But nobody had taken on the domestic role. So they were supporting themselves, supporting everybody else, and then trying to take that active role as well. So that's the first thing, to understand the context in which we're talking about support. When you feel unsupported, it's not because you're a failure. It's not because you can't keep up. It's not because you're not able to do things as well as other people. It's because you live in a society which isn't designed to support you. And of course, we're breaking that down. Of course, we are. And there's a very far distance for us still to go. I was chatting with a friend earlier in the week about how difficult it is for, particularly we were talking in the context of mothers, to be able to create the space and time in their lives to carve out their own dreams. And a big part of that is they're just not well supported in their lives. So what does this have to do with visibility? When you are trying to be visible in the world, there is a way to be visible which requires a lot of hustle and push and making it happen. And there's a way that is the path of ease. It's the path of allowing things to be easier and stepping into that path. But in order to step into that path, you have to break down a lot of story about how you will be supported on that path. You have to break down a lot of story that I can't be supported. It's weak to ask for support, that I have to do it all myself, that I'm not worthy of support. All of these connect with what I was just talking about the hierarchical conditioning that all of us have within us, that we have all internalized to a greater or lesser extent. And so one of the ways this plays out, in particularly with my students at the School of Visibility in our signature program, Women Speaking Up, is when I talk to them about systems, if you want to be really easeful in your visibility efforts, or in terms of how you show up and speak up, systems are essential. It's essential that you're able to rely on systems, that you're able to rely on automation, that you create systems to support you, so that you're not continually reinventing the wheel all of the time. But what I find is that women come up against huge resistance to creating systems. And part of that is just a flat out visibility block, because once you create systems, there's an energetic thing about, okay, I'm ready to scale. And so yeah, subconsciously we know, if I don't have any systems in place, then I won't have to be that visible. So there's just a straight up visibility block around creating systems. But some of the other reasons why we're resistant to creating systems are those stories. You've been told that you should be able to do it all. And so resting into a system feels like weakness. It feels like admitting that you can't do it all. You might be running a story that working hard makes you worthy. Many of us have this story. I certainly have had to work on this story a lot over my life, that working hard makes you worthy. And so therefore, even when there's an easier path to being visible, to growing your community, to building your business, you will not take it, because then it will be evidence that you're not worthy. You won't have been given the opportunity to prove your worth. So you will choose the harder path rather than the easier path. Sometimes the reason that we don't set up a system, or we aren't able to rely on a system, is because we have the masculine energies and approaches, of which systems are one, don't feel safe. We've learned over time that these things are unsafe, and so we don't feel safe to rest into them. So we think we'll just stay doing our own thing, because I can't be supported. I won't be supported, and even to try to be supported feels dangerous in some way. That's connected to our own experiences of the types of support we've received in life, but also around the masculine energies that we've had in our life, and the engagement we've had with those energies, sometimes in terms of our relationships with men. We also have this gendered socialization, which says, women aren't good at maths, women aren't good at science, where all of the conditioning around we're better at humanities and so forth. And what that ends up meaning is that many of us internalize a story: I'm not good with systems, I'm not good with numbers. And so when I invite my students to set up systems, they're like, oh, I'm just not good at that. So that's another thing that comes into play. And maybe the thing for you has been, I have been conditioned to question my own value and can question my own worth. And if I'm not worthy, if I don't feel worthy in the core of my being, then I'm not worthy of receiving support. And so then that comes up against our willingness, our desire to create a system to be more easeful with our visibility efforts. So the question you want to ask yourself first and foremost, because all of that means that when somebody says just set up a system, you're coming up against like a tsunami of conditioning which tells you otherwise. So this is why at the School of Visibility, we always take the internal external approach. We understand what are the internal barriers to us taking effective action in the world. We work first of all on the internal, then we take action in a way that is not coming up against all this internal resistance. So the first question, to dive into the internal, to see the internal, to understand what is my internal resistance to systems really all about, is to simply ask the question, what support am I willing to receive? What support am I willing to receive? And from whom am I willing to receive it? If you just take some time to journal with that, what support am I willing to receive and from whom am I willing to receive it? You'll start to see the conditioning or the stories that are determining your experience of being supported or not supported. And you'll start to be able to break them down, but you cannot break down what you cannot see. So that's the first step. What support am I willing to receive, and from whom am I willing to receive it? If you don't do this work, what ends up happening is you end up staying very, very busy, but not very powerful. And that is not what I want for anybody in the School of Visibility community. I want us to be truly powerful operators in the world, in your business, and in society as a whole. Please let me know if you have questions about anything that I have just shared. Let us know what you uncover for yourself. And remember that this is not a one and done kind of thing. You'll find that you go through your life, and at different stages in your life, you'll uncover more and more resistance to support, but you'll also uncover more and more capacity to open to support. So it's not like I'm supported, and so that's the end of the story. You are supported, you open to the level of support that you're able to receive today. Then as you expand into that, you get comfortable with that, and you need to open to a new level in order to go to the next and the next and the next in terms of growth in your business and growth in your life. So you repeat the cycle, you repeat the cycle, you repeat the cycle. And once you have the tools and the understanding of how to do the inner work, clear out the wounding, both internal, both individual wounding, but also collective wounding, the wounding, the gendered wounding, racial wounding, any wounding related to collective identity, then you'll be much more free to be able to step forward and take action, set up systems with ease, and allow yourself to become more visible, because you're not so busy in the back end. You actually have the time and the freedom to step forward, speak, engage with people, be interviewed, write books, whatever it might be, do speaking gigs. That's all for this week. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what your takeaway or your insight is from this that I've shared today, and I will see you again next week.